So hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto is a descendant of Izuna Uchiha. Part 1. If you guys enjoy this what if and want to see part 2, comment down below. And let me know before I start. Please do support for more awesome content. And leave a like and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And also share this video with your friends. And check out the description. And check out my playlist. So let's start the video. Onahagakure no Sato, the village hidden in the leaves, known as the greatest of the 5 great nations villages. It has been the birthplace of some of the world's strongest shinobi and is the home of some of the world's most prestigious shinobi clans. The clan regarded as the strongest in the village was the famed Uchiha clan, ruthless shinobi who, with the aid of their famous Sharingan, have made the world fear their name. One of the village's founders was an Uchiha, his name was Madara Uchiha, and he was regarded as the strongest Uchiha in the known history of Konoha. What many didn't seem to remember was that Madara had a younger brother, Izuna Uchiha, who was said to match his brother's skill. They were alive before the great villages were created in a time known as the Great Clan Wars. The Uchiha was one of the most feared clans even back then, and only one clan dared to face them. This clan was said to be rivals of the Uchiha in power and were called the Senju. The Senju clan was known just as widely as their Uchiha rivals, and their eventual strongest shinobi helped Madara found Konoha. He was Hashirama Senju, and he too had a younger brother, Tobirama Senju. For years of constant fighting, Madara and Hashirama set aside their differences and created their great village. To Madara's distaste, however, Hashirama was chosen to lead as the first Hokage. His younger brother had lost his life to Tobirama not long before the time of Konoha, giving Madara his power, as both brothers had awakened a forbidden Uchiha power. This power was a level up from the Sharingan, it was the Mangekyo Sharingan. It granted the wielder immense power, but its price was the Uchiha's light. Through constant use the eyes made the user blind. There was a solution however. You can prevent blindness by taking the Mangekyo eyes of another Uchiha. This is exactly what Madara did, he took his dying brother's eyes. This didn't just cure his blindness, but increased his power immeasurably. Madara set out for revenge, Tobirama's life for the one he took of his brothers, but Shirama stood in his way. They battled hard, but in the end it was clear to see Hashirama had bested him, and he submitted. They then made the alliance and created the Hidden Leaf Village, while all knowledge of Izuna was lost to Madara alone. Little did anyone know, Izuna had married an Uzumaki in secret and had created life with her, giving birth to a female Uzumaki that he named Kushina. Naruto. Naruto. The voice of Iruka Yamino rang out, awakening the raven-haired pupil from his nap. Have you been listening to me at all? The scarred man asked in anger, his face going red as his rage built up inside. The pupil in question was 8 years old and a first-year student at the Ninja Academy. He had short spiky black hair, with blood-red streaks near the tips, with short bangs framing his face. His sleepy eyes were a very dark shade of blue, from a side glance they appeared black. On each cheek he had 3 thin whisker-like birthmarks. He replied tiredly, while rolling his eyes. No, not really sensei. Everyone gasped at the young boy, while Iruka was fuming, with steam appearing from his head. His assistant, a blue-haired man of similar height, couldn't help but snicker slightly while trying to hide it. Iruka's head suddenly grew almost 10 times its original size before he screamed. Naruto. After class you can stay and I'll be happy to teach you everything you just missed. Naruto fell out of his chair in slight fear, screaming in a girlish fashion. Aw man, now I can't get ramen. Stupid sensei. Naruto thought in his head while climbing back to his seat. The entire class laughed at the sight of the boy having to climb back to seat before Iruka turned to face them. Q-E-A-T-T. Everyone went pale in the face and immediately shut up. Now then, I'd like to see everyone back here on Monday so we can carry on with the history of our Lord Third and how he too was once training to be a shinobi. Don't forget to finish your homework. The entire class filed out quickly, talking in groups of friends. Naruto looked on sadly, he didn't have any friends. For some reason everyone in the village hated him and parents wouldn't allow their kids to play with him. Sorry but my daddy said I'm not supposed to talk with you. I can't play with you, my mother says you're a bad person. They were just a small portion of what the other students would say to him. 3 years ago he was even kicked out of the orphanage, the Hokage, and some Anbu had actually found him in an alleyway full of dirt and obviously starved. The Hokage was one of few people who treated him with kindness. He was like a grandfather to Naruto, and for as long as the boy can remember he took him for ramen. The old man gave him his own apartment, just a small place, but Naruto loved it. It was all his and he didn't have to share it with anyone else. The old man also gives him a monthly allowance for food, drinks and other needs. A year ago the Hokage signed him up for the academy as Naruto had told him that it was his dream to be a shinobi. He thought he would be learning cool and how to defend himself, but no. All this place was teaching their future ninja generation how to write lines in a notebook, and who cared what the Hokage's middle name was. How was any of this supposed to help him in a fight? This rebellious behavior landed him at the bottom of his class in terms of scores. Now don't be mistaken, Naruto was smart, surprisingly so for his age. What the problem actually was is his refusal to do anything he deems as un-ninja-like, which, above all else, meant writing in stupid textbooks. How does this help them in a fight that means life or death? I'll stop you with my facts. Naruto accidentally said out loud sarcastically, bringing Iruka's attention straight back to him. Now then Naruto, time for you. Iruka's words sounded ominous, intimidating the poor child. Iruka was one of the typical village people. When Naruto first started attending the academy, he'd glare at him, treat him badly, and use any excuse to get him out of the class. But then Iruka had seen how lonely Naruto was. Iruka lost his parents, so he too was an orphan. He knew loneliness better than most. He realized there was no reason to hate the poor child. Slowly but surely he began treating Naruto the same way he'd treat the other students. Now that didn't mean he wouldn't discipline the boy for his antiques. But he would often treat the child to ramen the same way the Hokage would. Naruto began to see Iruka as a kind of father figure. Iruka smiled slightly before sitting in front of the child. Now then Naruto, you're smart, you could easily be one of my top students. Why don't you pay attention? Naruto stuck his tongue out before saying. Who cares about your crappy lessons? They're complete bullshit. He was cut off as Iruka comically slapped Naruto across the head, sending him head first into the table. Language Naruto. That hurt, damn it. Naruto yelled back while rubbing his head, a large lump forming hilariously fast from out of his spiky hair. Iruka began laughing, which only angered the boy more. Naruto suddenly punched him in the face, throwing the adult off of his chair. You think that's funny? Iruka jumped to his feet with his large angry face, a lump of his own appearing from his hairline. The sensei kicked Naruto comically hard, throwing him into the wall at the end of the room. Why, you little brat. The small boy painfully crawled back to his desk and for the second time that day, crawled back onto his chair. Now then Naruto. If you finish this work properly, I'll treat you to 5 bowls of ramen. He said with a large smile, the young boy immediately perking up with a large grin. Ramen? Yes, Iruka-sensei. He hurriedly got to work, answering all the questions Iruka asked as fast as he could without making mistakes. Yes, it's true, the only way to get past the boy's stubborn attitude is by bribing him with ramen. Iruka internally chuckled as he watched his favorite student fill in his work in record time. Hokage office. Through a secret orb kept in the Hokage's possession, the user can see practically anything in the village simply by adding chakra to it. The orb was currently showing the events in the classroom, and the one using it was none other than Hiruzen Sarutobi, the 3rd Hokage of the Leaf Village. He was once known as the Professor and was even the second man to attain the title of God of Shinobi. In his prime he was one of the most skilled men of his generation. He had won 2 wars and was even trained by Tobirama himself. When the rank of Hokage was first given to him, he was but a teenager and he was left in charge while the 2nd Hokage distracted enemy forces, sacrificing himself for the village. While it's true that he is far past his prime, even in his old age he can rival any of the other Kage and potentially still outclasses them with his skill and experience. He still deserves the title of the Professor, even if he can no longer hold onto the title of God of Shinobi. He began chuckling, happy that Naruto had someone other than him that could look out for him. Hiruzen was the one to confront Iruka, asking him not to hate Naruto for what happened all those years ago. See, the reason everyone hates Naruto is due to something that happened on the day of the boy's birth. The strongest of the 9 Bijuu, the great Kyuubi, attacked Konoha, killing hundreds. The great 4th Hokage, Minato Namikaze, died facing the demon fox, sacrificing himself to seal the Bijuu inside of a young Naruto. People have since hated Naruto, wishing him death, thinking he was the demon fox that was inside of him. It's the cause of all the glares, the reason he was thrown out of the orphanage, but worst of all is what happens on his birthdays. Villagers group together in large mobs and hunt down the poor child. When they eventually catch him they viciously beat him, calling it revenge for their fallen ones, and the next day the boy would wake up in the hospital. Hiruzen had to be present in the hospital to make sure they'll actually treat Naruto. Hiruzen knew the boy's parents. His mother was the former holder of the Kyuubi, her name was Kushina Uzumaki, but his father is the most surprising one. The father of Naruto is none other than the man who sealed the demon in his guy, Minato Namikaze. Now Hiruzen can't blame people for not noticing Naruto's relation to their savior, as for some strange reason the boy was born with pitch black hair that held the Uzumaki red in mere streaks. Most would say he resembles an Uchiha more than anything. Minato wished his son to be viewed as a hero for keeping the great fox inside of him, holding it from the demon. Well, it's safe to say that they pretty much spat on his last wish and did the complete opposite. Hiruzen made it a rule that nobody could mention the Kyuubi being in the boy in hopes of giving him a chance with the next generation. But they just decided to keep their kids away from Naruto in other ways. Hiruzen wiped a small tear from his eyes as he realized what tomorrow was. The great tragedy happened on the 10th of October, Naruto's birthday was the 10th of October. Today was the 9th, which meant tomorrow the mobs would rise and they would surely find the poor boy. He called his Anbu down, giving them strict orders to protect the boy by all means necessary. They nodded and vanished in swirls of leaves. Before they left, the eye holes on their masks showed slight red glows. Hiruzen sighed before walking back to his desk. Looking on the desk, he began crying hysterically. "Kami, help me. Too much paperwork." Streets of Konoha. Naruto had just left the raiment stand after Iruka's treat with a large smile on his face. He was walking back to his apartment while doing his best to ignore all of the glares from the villagers. He knew they hated him and deep down he hated them too. What child wouldn't hate everyone after the treatment he has had to endure all his life? He walked fearlessly, completely forgetting what tomorrow was. Right now he just wanted to get home, shower, and sleep. It had been a long day. Getting to his old crummy apartment, he quickly unlocked the door before walking in. Each time he entered he always got a little depressed, all he wanted was to be welcomed home by a mother he never had. He wanted a father to train him to be a cool ninja like all the other kids his age. But the only thing welcoming him was an empty apartment and the smell of the instant ramen he had the night before. Sighing, he locked the door and went to shower before finally heading to bed. The poor child was not ready for the next day. Naruto woke up to the sound of shouting and cheering. He tiredly opened his eyes and tried to move but found that he couldn't. Something was stopping him, restraining him. Once his eyes adjusted, he gasped. He was tied to a wooden post and in front of him stood a large group of angry villagers. "So the demon awakens." A large man called, gaining the entire mob's attention. Naruto could see they were holding all types of weapons, from knives to pitchforks, some actually had large metal pipes. What's going on?" He tried to ask, not understanding what was happening, he had just woken up to this and he was confused and extremely scared. Another villager decided to speak up with a twisted smile. "You don't remember? Today is the anniversary of your attack, you monster." They yelled angrily, waving their weapons at him. Naruto's eyes opened wider as it finally hit him, they only did this much once a year when they thought they could get away with such a thing. That day unfortunately happened to be Naruto's birthday. The man punched the poor boy in his stomach, knocking the breath out of his chest and causing him to spit blood. "PP, please stop. I didn't do anything." He begged, but it only seemed to fuel their anger as another one stabbed his weak arm, causing blood to leak out. Naruto let out a loud scream of pain while other villagers began to join in on the fun as they called it. "What's going on here?" a voice asked from behind the crowd. Everyone turned and immediately froze. The man it belonged to was dressed in ninja clothing. "WEC can explain." One villager began to say, but the shinobi interrupted him with a sickening smile. "Beating on the demon without even inviting me?" The mob suddenly began cheering while making room for the ninja. Naruto began screaming in fear as the man stared at him in anger. He suddenly began doing hand signs while glaring at the restricted boy. "You're going to die, demon." Water style. Water dragon jutsu. The puddles of water began to rise from the ground quickly, forming a large monster serpent of water. Its yellow eyes glared at Naruto, who in turn began to panic in pure fear. It lunged for him, but before it could get anywhere close, two black figures jumped in the way holding up hand signs of their own, exhaling huge fireballs that engulfed the water dragon, turning it to mere steam. While the fire carried on past the rivaling and reduced the villagers and ninja to ash. The shorter one turned to Naruto, throwing shuriken towards him and cutting the rope. He dropped to the floor, on his knees gasping in pain. When he looked up, the two Anbu took a step back. Naruto could clearly see their eyes, they were the Sharingan, the Kunai bloodline of the Uchiha. What he couldn't understand was why they took a step back. He looked down into the puddle and his eyes widened. Naruto gasped. There in his eye sockets were two Sharingan eyes with a single comma in each. Before he could say anything, he suddenly collapsed due to blood loss from the wound on his arm. His last thought before he fell unconscious was the simple word, "Whoa." One day later, Konoha Hospital. Naruto's eyes began to open slowly, the blinding light of the hospital ceiling momentarily blinding him. He could barely remember the night before, everything seemed foggy. When his eyes had adjusted properly, he looked around to see the old man talking to some teenagers he had never seen before. The shortest one had long brownish hair in a thin ponytail at the back. He had black eyes and strange lines under them. He was wearing a high-collared blue shirt and matching trousers. The one next to him was slightly taller and appeared to be a little older. He had short black hair in a somewhat curly, unruly style. His eyes too were black and he had a kind smile on his face. He wore an identical shirt to the first one, but wore dark brown trousers. The Hokage was dressed in his usual robes and was talking to the two teenagers about something he couldn't hear. As he began trying to eavesdrop, he saw the shortest one looking at him. "So you're awake." The other two heard his words and turned to see Naruto with an embarrassed look on his face. The Hokage flashed him a warm smile. "Ah, Naruto, my boy, you had a long rest. How are you feeling?" Naruto smiled at Hiruzen, warming the old man's heart. "I'm okay, old man." Naruto shouted, still not remembering what had happened the night before. Good. Naruto, I would like to introduce you to Izuna Uchiha and Itachi Uchiha." Naruto smiled his typical huge grin at both of them and waved. Izuna had a kind-hearted smile on his face, while Itachi flashed a small smile too. "It's a pleasure to meet you, Naruto," Itachi said formally, nodding his head slightly. Izuna grinned while speaking with an enthusiastic tone. "Whoa, sweet hair, I'm digging it." Naruto grinned even more. These two teenagers weren't being mean to him or even ignoring him as most villagers did. They seemed genuinely nice. "They are both shinobi and Naruto, some of my best in fact," Hiruzen said, knowing how Naruto would react to that. "So cool. And you're not even that old. You're awesome," Naruto said loudly, bouncing in his hospital bed. He accidentally fell out of his bed and landed on his arm. Wincing in pain, he noticed the slight blood on the bandages and suddenly, just like that, the memories from last night began flowing into his head. Old man. There's something I need to tell you. Yesterday was my birthday and you know what happens on my birthdays, and then a ninja came and he made this big scary dragon of water, but then these two other guys jumped down out of nowhere and fired the hugest fireballs I'd ever seen. Then the cool ninja dudes cut me down and they had masks and the Sharingan. But then I looked into a puddle and saw that I had it too. I had the Sharingan." The two Uchiha were chuckling together while Hiruzen had a grandfatherly smile. "They are the two ninjas that saved Naruto. And for some reason you do have the Uchiha bloodline. That is why I'm having them both train you to use it. You will still attend the academy, however. They will not stop until they think you are ready and you will refer to them as your senseis. Is that understood by Naruto?" Naruto was lost for words. Two teenagers had saved him and they were going to teach him to use their bloodline. "Your training will be tough, Naruto, you better keep up," Itachi said, activating his Sharingan. Izuna nodded while smiling before he too activated his eyes. "Yes, Itachi-sensei," Naruto replied, feeling a burst of his chakra go straight to his eyes. Hiruzen couldn't believe what he was seeing. Naruto lifted his head, revealing his activated Sharingan eyes. Training with the two Uchihas was, for lack of better words, torture. He'd been learning from them for less than a month and he was beginning to regret awakening the Sharingan. Within the first training session it started off interesting. They taught him how to channel chakra to his eyes to switch his Sharingan on and off and even checked his affinity by channeling chakra into special chakra paper. It had 3 separate reactions. First it split in 2 pieces indicating a wind chakra nature, but then one side burned to ash while the other crumbled up into a ball. According to his senses, this meant that Naruto had not 1, not 2 even, but 3 chakra natures. They were wind, fire, and lightning. Then it got to the torture. Itachi made him wear weights on his arms and legs, making the poor child unable to move, and told Naruto he was to wear them everywhere and never take them off, before ordering him to run laps around the entire training ground, then push-ups, and then punches and kicks. He almost passed out the first day. Izuna made Naruto spar with him for 30 minutes each day, and he was not holding back. He made Naruto activate his Sharingan and told him to focus and predict his movements and attacks. Needless to say, Naruto went home with a lot of bruises. He was also given a wooden sword to train with, teaching him the basics and correcting him strictly whenever he made the slightest mistakes. Itachi was also drilling knowledge into the boy's head, and information and intellect was just as useful as, if not more so. Then they told him to meditate for 3 hours a day after training to help build chakra reserves and give him some chakra control. After the first 2 weeks he felt stronger and was beginning to get used to his weights. He had also been attending the academy and had not missed a single day. Haruka was sure someone was pretending to be Naruto as he had been working a lot harder in classes. It was true he'd been paying more attention, mostly because Itachi would be mad if he found out and he scared Naruto. Surprisingly, Naruto had actually made 2 new friends. The first was a boy slightly taller than him with light blue hair and bright purple eyes. He had strange shark-like teeth and liked to wear sleeveless shirts for some reason. He was originally from the Mist Village, but his family were seeking refuge from the civil war back home and the Hokage gracefully took them in. His name was Shinsuke Kazuki and he was the first to make friends with Naruto. Being from the Mist Village, people didn't trust his family and therefore didn't trust him. He related to Naruto and decided to befriend the boy. Not long after Shinsuke and Naruto became friends, another boy approached them. He had short black hair and the typical wide eyes of a Hyuga. He had a strange green seal on his forehead but refused to cover it as covering it would mean I'm even more caged than I already am when Naruto asked. He was a little shorter than the other two. He had made friends with them as he disliked the other members of their class as they were too loud. His name was Takiro Hyuga. Naruto was happy he now had friends to hang out with and play with. They didn't judge him like everyone else and didn't seem to care that all the glares began to turn to them too for being the demon's friends. The three boys would often hang out in empty training grounds or at the Hokage monument. They would often talk about their dreams and goals as future shinobi. Shinsuke wished to be as skilled as the 7 ninja swordsmen back at the Mist Village and hopefully see an end to all the fighting back home. You could see the determination in his eyes. As a side dream he would like to wield one of their blades. Takiro wished to free the branch family of the Hyuga from the seal that is implanted on all of their foreheads from a young age, which is used by the main family to inflict intense pain upon the branch family members should they step out of line. Naruto had told them that he would like to be strong enough to fight on par with a Kage and change what people think of him, and he would like to master the Sharingan to just see the reactions people will have when they find out he has Uchiha blood. The boys kept no secrets from each other and were closer than most brothers were. Hiruzen was proud of how much Naruto had progressed and it warmed his heart to see him with friends his own age. He was at the top of his classes now and Hiruzen knew that the boy had a lot of potential. Naruto walked into his usual training ground to see his two senseis there waiting for him. No words had to be spoken as Naruto immediately got to work on his laps while Shisui and Itachi spoke together. He has progressed so well in just a month and he still has 4 years before graduating from the academy. By then we'll have created an almost perfect shinobi. He has skill, power and knowledge. Qualities like those are hard to come by these days, even among most. Shisui said, praising their student with a small smile. Itachi merely nodded while watching Naruto. The boy had gained a lot of speed in such a short amount of time, if he were to remove his weights, he could definitely keep up with almost any and maybe even some, it was surprising to say the least. He had gotten better with the Sharingan too and could actually follow Shisui's movements to a certain degree. Naruto was just finishing his laps and was about to start on press-ups when Itachi spoke up. Naruto, you are somehow able to use the Sharingan, which means somewhere in you there's Uchiha blood. Activate it for me and watch closely, I am about to teach you the hand signs that all members of our clan learn. Naruto nodded while flaring his Sharingan to life. Itachi did them at a fast pace, but Naruto was able to follow the hand signs with little difficulty. Focus your chakra into your lungs and heat it up. When you think you have it right, exhale. Like this. Fire style. Fireball jutsu. From Itachi's mouth burst a large flaming fireball, like a miniature sun, flowing forward and incinerating a nearby training dummy. Naruto's eyes twinkled slightly at the sight. With a nod of approval from Itachi, Naruto began going through the hand signs. Itachi and Shisui were both shocked at the speed Naruto was going through them at. It was unheard of for an academy student's first try, but he made no mistakes. Taking a deep breath, Naruto aimed at a dummy next to the first. Here goes. Fire style. Fireball jutsu. From Naruto's mouth erupted a huge fireball, close to the size of Itachi's, burning towards the dummy with extraordinary speed. It burnt the wooden mannequin to ash, like Itachi's did to the first one. Looking up, Naruto saw both of his senseis with wide-eyed looks. He grinned sheepishly while rubbing the back of his head. Well done Naruto, first try as well. Looks like we have another Uchiha prodigy over here. Shisui said enthusiastically while patting his student's head. He was proud of the young boy and deep down he knew that Itachi was too, even if he was remaining emotionless. For your good work I'm going to teach you one more thing. Watch closely with your Sharingan again. Shadow Clone Jutsu. In a puff of smoke appeared 2 more copies of Shisui. This allows you to create physical clones of yourself, but that isn't the only trick. When you dispel a clone, the memories of that clone are transferred back to you. Making it excellent training for someone with high reserves. Now you try. Naruto was grinning, he was learning another. Holding up a single hand sign he focused his chakra. Shadow Clone Jutsu. A huge amount of smoke filled the training ground, blinding everyone there temporarily. When the smoke cleared, both Uchihas almost had a heart attack. Naruto had summoned over 100 clones. They were all perfect, no slight or major deformities among them. Okay Naruto. Back to training. Split into 4 groups and each group will focus on one of your training exercises, be it press-ups, punches and kicks, sparring, or chakra control. Get to it. Shisui commanded. Each Naruto saluted to him before replying in complete unison. Yes, Shisui-sensei. And getting to work. Itachi whispered to Shisui quietly. This boy has the potential to surpass even us. He masters for the first time, progresses faster than any regular shinobi his age or far older. I can't wait to see the ninja he becomes after graduation. He had a small smile on his face. Not that he'd admit it, but he liked training Naruto, the boy was a breath of fresh air. 2 years later. Naruto had grown, not just physically. His intelligence was close to Nara's. He now had a fully matured Sharingan in both eyes, something he was proud of. His senseis had called off training for the day, so he was lost for things to do. His chakra control had come a long way, despite not being a sensory ninja, he could rather easily spot out most shinobi when they were hiding. With the use of shadow clones, his training skyrocketed. He had practically mastered the use of his sword, and Shisui had actually gifted him a real katana. He was above level in terms of speed, and that was without removing his weights. He had a large arsenal under his belt too. Shisui and Itachi took advantage of his skill at mastering jutsu, and he had been taught practically every fire jutsu in the village and Uchiha jutsu libraries. He learned to channel chakra through his blade too, increasing its damage. He had some new lightning and wind to go along with his fire ones, and it was safe to say he was the most dangerous 10-year-old in the village. Shisui had even taught him his all-famous variation of the Shunshin teleportation, which he had practically mastered in a little over a week. Itachi had been teaching him strong genjutsu and had already taught the boy to break them with the use of his chakra. Naruto could now cast them with his Sharingan alone. Itachi also allowed him to sign the crow summoning contract, as it would be a useful tool in the future. His aim with throwing weapons at first was awful, he had almost impaled Itachi once and he was standing far behind the boy. It quickly improved to the point he was the top of his class at that as well. He even added his chakra natures to his kunai and shuriken for added speed and damage. They taught him the Uchiha Taijutsu style, the interceptor fist, as they didn't want the boy to be killed the first time he dropped his sword. Surprisingly, he managed to work the shadow clones around him into Taijutsu combinations, acting as a team on his own. He even incorporated whenever he made eye contact with his opponent, like a true Uchiha. The Hokage was impressed with Naruto's skill, but was sad to see something change in the boy. He became more serious and was never happy until he was training. He lost the goofy attitude and the large grins. The most he'd do was a small arrogant Uchiha-like smirk. That was enough thinking about Naruto, he had something else he had to deal with. For a long time now the Uchiha and the people of Konoha had begun to drift apart. Trust between the two had disappeared completely. This started when Tobirama, through his paranoia towards the Uchiha, forced them to live on the outskirts and strip them of power, rendering them to nothing but a simple police force. Hiruzen had begun making progress by trying to mend their differences in hopes of keeping their alliance, but that all ended when the Kyuubi attacked the village. Villagers and shinobi alike had claimed that they saw Sharingan in the fox's eye, and of course the Uchiha didn't take kindly to this accusation. Itachi and Shisui had informed him of something that made him sad however. The clan was planning a coup d'etat on the village. Planning to kill everyone standing in their way and take the seat of Hokage by force. Naruto's two senseis had been working as spies for the Hokage and they had told him the attack would be soon. He had been hoping to avoid confrontation and had planned for Shisui to hopefully change their minds. See, Shisui had awakened the next form of the Sharingan, the Mangekyo Sharingan, and with it came a powerful. This could implant false memories into one's head without them ever releasing, he called it Kodomatsukami. One of his advisors, Danzu, had disapproved immediately, the snake. He was just trying to take the seat for himself, and Hiruzen knew it. The crippled man had told Hiruzen that they needed to deal with traitors with force, recommending that they wipe the entire clan out. Hiruzen had said that should his plan fail, they would have no other choice but to go along with that plan, but had hoped it wouldn't come to it. Today was the day, he had Shisui in front of him with his Sharingan activated, ready for his mission. He would meet Itachi at a secret rendezvous should something go wrong, but he had confidence in himself. Shisui, you know what's at stake. Should you fail I will have no other choice but to annihilate the Uchiha clan. I trust you. Go. In a swirl of leaves the shinobi vanished and began making the trip to his clan. Suddenly he saw someone stood in the way staring at him with a single eye. He knew this man and he didn't trust him. Danzo. What can I do for you? I really should get moving. The man just looked at him with his cold single eye. Shisui Uchiha. Your Sharingan is powerful, even more so than Itachi's. You will be using your famed Kodomatsukami on Fugaku, yes? Shisui was on edge, something didn't feel right here. He began walking past Danzo. The crippled man suddenly reached for his face, making Shisui widen his eyes in shock. Danzo was close to reaching for his eye when Shisui made eye contact. Danzo suddenly froze, unable to move a muscle. That will only be temporary, when you finally break out I should be long gone. Danzo suddenly vanished from existence, putting Shisui on edge. He felt a strong grip on his throat suddenly, looking forward he could see that the hand belonged to Danzo. However, before he could react, the crippled man ripped out his left eye, causing the young to scream in pain. The bandages around the man's face suddenly fell as he pushed the Sharingan eye in place. Shisui created some distance quickly, but surrounding Danzo was a large group of his root Anbu. They immediately fired off dozens of water. Responding quickly, Shisui flashed through hand signs and stopped each of the oncoming with a single fireball. The clash kicked up a large cloud of steam, and when it vanished, Shisui was nowhere to be seen. Follow him. Don't let him escape. The root Anbu disappeared, following the young Uchiha. When they caught up to him, he was in a clearing and facing them head-on. His good eye suddenly bled as his chakra flared drastically. The root didn't seem to notice as they closed a gap, and that was their last mistake. Susanoo. A large green body of chakra appeared around Shisui. It had a knight-like helmet and looked to be armored. It was wielding a large drill-like weapon, which it swung, slicing all of the root members to pieces in one go. The chakra body suddenly disappeared as Shisui dropped to one knee before he vanished in a blur. Itachi was already waiting at their meeting place. He figured something must have happened as Shisui was late and in the end never arrived at the Uchiha clan district. He felt someone behind him and turned to look at his best friend. His eyes suddenly widened as he saw Shisui missing an eye and bleeding heavily. Shisui. What happened? He ran to his friend's side to see if there was anything he could do to help. Your Sharingan. Danzo took it. He doesn't trust me and wants to. Wants something from our clan. I don't know what. Don't trust him, Itachi. He has spies everywhere. Shisui was panting heavily and could barely get those words out. He then reached to his face, removing his last eye. Take this, Itachi. You're the only one I trust. The fate of our clan is in your hands. A crow appeared out of nowhere and took the eye, bringing it to its homeland so it could be safe. Itachi looked worried, as if he was holding back tears. Shisui smiled at him while standing up. He began walking backwards slowly, and by the time Itachi realized what he was doing, it was too late. Shisui fell backwards off of the cliffside, and Itachi ran to catch him but was too late. Shisui. He called as he watched his best friend fall to his death. All the pain he felt and the anger towards Danzo sparked something in him. His eyes began to burn as chakra began flowing to them in large amounts. His Sharingan began to morph into something new. It began to look like a three-sided shuriken instead of his usual three commas. Small trickles of blood fell from his cold, dead eyes. He knew what had just happened and his new mission. He had just awakened the famous Mangekyo Sharingan and his new mission. Kill the Uchiha. A few days later. Naruto was walking through the streets of Konoha and it was getting dark. There weren't many people walking around at this time, which he liked. It gave him a break from the usual glares and whispers that he has had to deal with almost all of his life. It made him question why he'd ever protect them when they would never do the same for him, but he banished those thoughts quickly. He would protect the village for the few people he cared about. The nice people at the ramen shop, Iruka-sensei, Shinsuke, Takiro, the old man, Itachi and Shisui. He had to admit that most of the Hokage's Anbu were nicer to him than most and had often jumped to his protection from his beatings. When he was younger, he remembered a white-haired Anbu operative who used to watch over him almost all day every day. He never got his name, but he remembered his aura and gravity-defying hair. As he was walking, he noticed someone running. He had dark hair and a similar shirt to his sensei's. In fact, he looked a lot like Itachi. He remembered this boy from his class as Sasuke, a snot-nosed brat. He was spoiled and arrogant despite being next to nothing. He hadn't even awakened the Sharingan, and he was 10. Considering he had nothing else to do today, he decided to follow the boy as he had never actually been in the Uchiha district despite being trained by two of their most respected members. Sasuke seemed to be stressing about something, but before he could figure out what it was, an awful smell reached his nose. He had bled enough in his short life to remember what it smelled like. They hadn't reached the district yet, but the smell was potent and almost knocked Naruto sick. He was surprised that Sasuke couldn't seem to smell it yet. He decided to keep his guard up. If something were to happen, he would have to defend himself and Sasuke, as the boy wasn't as skilled as he liked to make out. Sasuke ran through his district gates. The streets were empty and the lights were off. That's weird, it's not that late, is it? People usually have their lights on, there's no way everyone can be asleep at this time. He muttered to himself as he began walking. Naruto was walking across the rooftops and masking his chakra as best he could, thanking his senseis for his training. He suddenly froze as he felt someone looking at him. It was like a sixth sense for Naruto, as he grew up with stairs. He looked up and could have sworn he saw a shadowy figure disappear out of existence. Before he could investigate further, he heard Sasuke scream. Immediately jumping down, he turned the corner and almost threw up. Surrounding Sasuke were dozens of corpses. They looked like Uchiha, from the shirts and hair. There was blood everywhere. Naruto stayed just out of sight, so Sasuke didn't notice him. Sasuke was panicking like crazy, he didn't know what was happening. Suddenly a thought came into his head. Mother. Father. He immediately took off running towards his house, Naruto tailing him at a safe distance. As he was running, Sasuke saw more and more bodies of people he knew, children and adults alike were littering the streets. This can't be happening. Sasuke muttered quietly while running. Once he got to his house he had to take a deep breath, he was terrified of what he might see. He opened the door to the entrance of his large house while taking his shoes off. He ran through his house in hopes of finding his parents alive. He got to the last door and you could see the fear on his face. He was shaking and sweat was pouring down his face. With one strong push he opened the door and almost puked instantly. His parents were there, dead on the floor in a pool of their own blood. Sasuke began to tear up, but a glimmer of hope entered them as he saw the figure behind them. Itachi. Something happened to mother and father. Someone. Sasuke was cut off as a shuriken passed open and embedded itself into the door. Suddenly his shoulder gained a slash mark and blood pooled out slowly. Itachi. I did it. To test my own powers. Itachi said out of nowhere, scaring Sasuke. You're weak. Suddenly Itachi's Sharingan morphed into the Mangekyo Sharingan as he cast on his younger brother. He forced Sasuke to watch as he killed each and every Uchiha he found. Sasuke began screaming as tears poured down his face. So many were getting slaughtered before his eyes. Then it got worse. He watched as Itachi killed his parents. And then the entire thing played over again, and when it ended it repeated again and again. It was breaking his brother and he knew it. Itachi then left the house leaving Sasuke on the floor screaming. As he began to leave the district, he stopped. He heard someone land behind him, but without turning he knew who it was. You shouldn't be here, Naruto. Itachi's tone was cold, but Naruto knew it was forced. Why are you doing this? Where's Shisui-sensei? Naruto questioned, while keeping his guard up. Itachi may care about him, but Naruto knew something was up, there was a reason why Itachi was doing what he was doing. Shisui is dead. Naruto froze. A small tear fell from his eye as he registered what Itachi had just told him. I killed him. So I could reach the next stage of the Sharingan. Naruto's heart skipped a beat as he watched Itachi's Sharingan slowly morph into the three-sided shuriken that was his Mangekyo. To gain these eyes you must kill your best friend. And I wanted the power. Now watch him die, Naruto. He cast over Naruto and made him watch a false reality where Itachi stabbed Shisui in the back. Naruto tried to break them, but for some reason it wouldn't budge. Only the Mangekyo Sharingan can break free from the effects of Tsukiyomi. In this realm I control time and space, and you will be kept here for 24 hours watching the same events on repeat, and it will last but a second in the real world. Now break Naruto. Naruto's anger and hatred were rising uncontrollably. Shisui was one of his closest people. He couldn't have just lost one of the only people that accepted him. His chakra flared to his eyes, the hurt was fueling his anger. No. How dare you kill Shisui? Naruto screamed as his Sharingan began to morph, shocking Itachi. It became what appeared to be two sides crossing over each other, with their hilts joining together at the bottom. Tsukiyomi began to crack up before it shattered like glass. Itachi watched as Naruto collapsed to the ground, his eyes changing back to the Sharingan and then back to his normal eyes. You will be the one to kill me, it seems, Naruto. As you already have my eyes. Goodbye Naruto. He disappeared in a burst of crows, leaving the village as the man who massacred his clan and labeled as an S-rank rogue ninja. Naruto and Sasuke were left unconscious in the Uchiha district for the Hokage's Anbu to find. Hiruzen was shocked to find Naruto there, but had to be proud as he figured the boy followed Sasuke in order to protect him. I'm sorry Itachi. And to you Naruto, I am sorry as well. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoy it. If you want the next part of this video, turn on that bell notification. Like, subscribe and comment down below. And also check out the others videos I have created and enjoyed it. See you guys next video.